Allen & Company wishes OOIDA and all members a safe, healthy, and joyous holiday season.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Redding.
From a bid to bring more transparency to the brokering process and a race to install congestion pricing in New York City, to wondering if we can finally shovel dirt on top of the driver shortage narrative, Jamie Jones and Tyson Fisher of Landline Magazine dropped by to discuss the big stories of the week with news anchor Scott Thompson. Every year, enforcement agencies across the country conduct numerous safety blitzes, and truckers frequently find themselves a target. But some of those events look at passenger vehicles as well. I'll discuss one recent example with Sergeant Jason Morris of the Kentucky State Police. And finally, the holidays are coming up, which has Marty Ellis thinking about the sacrifices many truck drivers make in service of their career. Scott will talk with the man who drives the spirit of the American trucker. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. We have new details tonight about FMCSA's plans to overhaul and modernize the registration process for motor carriers. The agency clarifying the changes through a new frequently asked questions feature on the website. Let's run through a few items of note, starting with whether existing docket numbers, or MC numbers, are going to be replaced by USDOT numbers. The answer there is mostly no. FMCSA says rather than being replaced by USDOT numbers, MC numbers will be phased out. Specific types of operating authority registration will instead be indicated by a suffix to the USDOT number. That means FMCSA will, however, stop issuing MC numbers once the new registration system goes live. From that point forward, the USDOT number will be the sole identifier for all FMCSA registrants. Another frequently asked question FMCSA is clearing up: will existing registrants have to go through identity verification and business verification? The answer is yes. The agency says all existing registrants will complete identity and business verification before completing any transactions in the new system, something that is meant to ensure data integrity and accuracy. More details to come on when and how to do that in the months to come. As for getting new USDOT numbers, existing registrants will keep the one they have now, but previously registered brokers, freight forwarders, and motor carriers operating non-commercial vehicles who never received a USDOT number in the past will receive a USDOT number now. One more change of note: the current FMCSA portal you might use right now is going away. The new FMCSA registration system, meant to act more like a central hub for all things related to regulations and compliance, will take its place. FMCSA says all the changes are in the name of modernization. The goal is to simplify the registration process, streamline identification, develop a new user-friendly registration system, and incorporate enhanced verification tools to cut down on fraud. Ken Riddle, director of FMCSA's Office of Registration, said during the agency's safety research forum earlier this year that the new system should close some of the gaps that currently exist.
The fraud mitigation is not going to wait on this new system. We have to implement that as soon as we can. And then when this system is rolled out, we will integrate those new solutions, the fraud-resistant solutions, into the new system. So we're not going to wait on the new system. But at the forefront of this new system will be fraud-resistant security features. The new system will streamline the registration process. It'll be a lot more intuitive. And not quite as cumbersome as what our customers and our registrants experience today. It'll be an improved user experience, and it will improve the quality of the data that we collect, which I think everybody in this group will recognize the benefit. We're going to have real-time data validation, smart logic, and edit checks that'll help reduce the errors, the bad data, the mistakes as a registrant fills out the application. And then lastly, it's going to consolidate most all of the forms that we have today into one online system. And that online system will be intuitive so that it won't ask you questions that you don't need to answer. So if you say, I don't carry hazmat, it's not going to ask you a bunch of hazmat questions. It will ask you the next question based on how you answered the previous question.
So big changes on the way. As for when all of this takes effect, FMCSA expects the new registration system to be phased in throughout 2025. The U.S. Senate passed a trucking-related bill on Thursday. We've been keeping you updated on Senate Bill 3959, the Transportation Security Screening Modernization Act. In short, if signed into law, it will streamline the security clearance process for truck drivers and others. The bipartisan bill is aimed at current TSA policies, which often require separate applications for required credentials, like the Transportation Worker Identification Credential and hazardous materials endorsements. That's despite TSA already conducting a security threat assessment for each program. When introduced in March, Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi said it would cut through red tape so workers can get back to moving goods across America, not wasting time and money. After it passed, Senator Wicker doubled down on that, saying the bill will help essential workers save time and money, adding more truckers to the workforce and keeping supply chains moving. The bill now heads to the House for consideration. It's already got a running start there. An identical bill of the same name was introduced there in September. At last check, 63 members of the House had signed on as co-sponsors. We'll keep you posted. The Attorney General of Nebraska is taking 4 heavy truck manufacturers and the Truck and Engine Manufacturers Association to court. Attorney General Mike Hildress of Nebraska is accusing them of conspiring with California to reduce the availability of internal combustion engine trucks in favor of electric ones. In a statement, Hildress said California's regulations are meant to essentially eliminate semi-trucks with internal combustion engines. He wrote that isn't just practically impossible to achieve, but would also impose enormous costs on Nebraska and Nebraska companies, which depend on that market to survive. Hildress claims that the manufacturers colluded with California in a move that will raise prices, reduce output, and increase costs for Nebraskans. He calls it a classic antitrust violation.
It's a very, very, very poor policy decision. It's one that would never get through the halls of Congress, I believe. But what's happening now are state, federal, and now private actors are taking matters into their own hands to agree to get us to this electric vehicle future without any say of Nebraskans or Americans.
Daimler Truck, International Motors, Navistar, PACCAR, and Volvo Group are named in the lawsuit. Hildress has taken legal aim at emissions regulations in the past. Earlier this year, he was one of 17 state attorneys general that filed a lawsuit against California's Advanced Clean Fleets regulation. He is also involved in litigation against the Environmental Protection Agency, challenging its new truck emission rules that were finalized in March. And finally, the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance has set the dates for next year's Human Trafficking Awareness Initiative throughout North America. The U.S. will go first from January 13th through the 17th. Canada will be up next for 5 days starting February 17th. Then it's Mexico's turn from March 17th through the 21st. CVSA's annual 5-day Human Trafficking Awareness, Outreach, and Prevention Initiative educates commercial motor vehicle drivers, motor carriers, law enforcement officers, and the general public about the crime of human trafficking, the signs to look for, and what to do if you suspect someone is being trafficked. That's Laneline Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. Congratulations to Timothy G. Trotter of Castaic, California. He's received the OOIDA Safe Driving Award for 45 years of safe, accident-free driving. That's the equivalent of a car driver going 338 years without causing a single accident. The OOIDA Safe Driving Award program is sponsored by Shell Rutella. Starting December 3rd, Marty Ellis and OOIDA's tour truck, The Spirit of the American Trucker, will be at the Quick Start in Stewart, Iowa. That's located at Exit 93 on Interstate 80. Stop in, say hi to Marty, and join OOIDA for a $10 discount. Next, Scott Thompson discusses the latest on broker transparency and more with Jamie Jones and Tyson Fisher of Landline Magazine. And I'll discuss a recent enforcement blitz with Sergeant Jason Morris of the Kentucky State Police. We'll be back in just a moment with more news and information. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Running on ultra-low sulfur diesel? Stay protected this winter with Howe's Diesel Treat and Diesel Lifeline. Steer clear of gel and ice with North America's #1 trusted brand. Find Howe's products nationwide at select retailers, auto parts stores, truck stops, and on Amazon.com.
When it's time to overhaul your truck engine, help protect it by insisting on a genuine Vibertech TVD crankshaft damper. Heavy duty, absolute premium quality, and they're made right here in the USA. Find a dealer at vibertechtvd.com.
Truckdown.com. Whenever you have a breakdown, you need Truckdown.com. 24/7 access to 40,000 verified heavy-duty repair vendors nationwide. Truck revived. Deliveries thrive. Truckdown.com.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Welcome back to Landline Now. Scott here in Studio A with Jamie Jones and Tyson Fisher of Landline Magazine. We're going to drill down into some of the big stories this week, from broker transparency rules and asking if the driver shortage debate is finally over, to congestion pricing and more. Jamie, Tyson, good to see you.
Hey, good to be here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So let's get into this broker transparency rulemaking that we got from FMCSA this week. We've been waiting on this for a while. We've been moving slowly, but I think it's safe to say we are moving in the right direction here. Jamie, you've been covering this. First, I think a quick rundown is probably helpful for those who haven't been following this as closely. Just basically, what is this rule going to do?
Well, the rule is actually, it's just going to shore up regulations that are already on the books for broker transparency. OOIDA and the Small Business and Transportation Coalition both petitioned the agency back in 2020 because brokers were not complying with the spirit of the regulation. They were like, you want to see the records? Fine by me. Come to my office. And, completely inaccessible.
You're in a different time zone? That's unfortunate for you. So sorry.
Oh, we're closed when you come through at midnight.
Exactly.
Sorry, there's not much we can do about that. So, brokers have really, kind of exploited that ability to violate the spirit of the regulations. So, OOIDA's petition just basically asked the agency to up enforcement and compliance. Let's put some better rules out there and make it clear that brokers should be able to. Email's been around for decades now, so there's no reason why we can't email those records in a format that is understandable. We don't want it in hieroglyphics or anything.
Right.
Who knows what they would pull next?
Sure.
Seriously, don't put anything past a crooked broker, all right?
Yeah.
But, and then, just the gist is that once the request is made, you have the proposed time frame is 48 hours to respond with those documents. So, it's really pretty simplistic for rulemaking, very much in the common sense realm. And as expected, it took significant blowback from the broker groups.
Which, to me, if you're in opposition to transparency with this issue, you're probably part of the problem. As you point out, it's the 21st century. I'm sure they're keeping these things on a computer anyway. They've got an electronic copy of it anyway.
Do they even still have ledgers at Office Depot? I haven't looked in a while,
They probably do, and there may be some out there that are doing that. But again, I think this just begs the question. The pushback that we've seen really speaks volumes and really says a lot about the people who are pushing back, if in fact they are, because this is the name of transparency.
100%. So the Transportation Intermediaries Association, which represents brokers, they came out swinging hard after this proposal hit. And I compared it in an opinion piece to, kind of the drunk in the bar swinging and fighting the air.
Sure.
They're not landing a single solid blow because they said things like TIA has consistently maintained that the broker transparency regulation rooted in 1980s is obsolete and un-American.
Un-American.
Un-American. And it's just, so putting people out of business and taking 80% of the freight rate, that's American.
Right? Yeah. Go USA.
Yeah. This rule has no place in today's highly transparent marketplace. Transparent for who?
Right.
It's not the truckers taking these loads. And so many of these brokers and so much of this is small business truckers. This is where they're going to get those loads.
Right.
So, it makes it so easy to prey upon them. And do not tell me that this is a transparent process. No, the only transparency is between the shipper potentially and the broker because The broker knows what the rate was, but the shipper doesn't know how much is getting on over to the motor carrier. So this, the whole supply chain needs to have this information because, one, it will, and this is a point that TIA neglected to bring up, it will help combat the broker fraud out there.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start getting that paperwork and it has to be executed and sent and everything, going to be a lot harder for the fraudsters out there.
Right, exactly. And to put a pin in this, enforcement's going to be the key here. We talk all the time about these regulations that are actually on the books that are not being enforced. Hopefully, FMCSA will follow through on this and actually go after those who are not abiding by the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And also, for those listening out here, if you've got a broker who's trying to do the shell game on you, probably want to stay away from them as well.
So, and it's really unfortunate the way the enforcement system is set up right now. All the complaints are supposed to go through the National Consumer Complaint Database, which says nothing to me when I read that name about trucking or brokers.
Yeah, it's misleading. It's not helpful, that name.
It's not.
Bad branding.
It is really bad branding. And that's something that TIA tried to point at and say, well, there's not even been that many complaints in the National Consumer Complaint. Well, no duh. I mean, it's because nobody knows to go there and put the complaints in. So, now's the time. If you do have a problem, go look for that. We have a link on landline.media. And the other thing, this whole proposal is open for comment right now. And while there are specific questions they want to ask, which are outlined in the article that we have, don't be afraid to share those horror stories of the lack of transparency. We have to continue to hold FMCSA accountable on this front because the regulations on the books, we just want it enforced and perfected.
It'd be great to see 15,000 comments like we saw with speed limiters on this issue to make sure that they're aware that this is a real problem out there. Let's move on to another topic here, the driver shortage narrative. I'm going to use a lot of air quotes here. OOIDA Executive Vice President Louis Pugh was in Chattanooga, Tennessee this week. He was taking part in another air quote debate at the Future of Freight Festival. Tyson, they wanted to have a healthy debate about this issue, and we'll get into who wasn't there, which I think is notable. Not really, though, much of a debate here really on this issue because they ended up, Louis and John Larkin of Clarendon Capital, ended up kind of almost on the same side of this debate. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's pretty fair to say. Yeah, when you hear about the driver shortage debate, the first thing that came to my head was, oh, cool, we're going to see the first live debate. We're going to go head-to-head.
Back and forth.
We're going to hear this argument.
Crossfire.
Fireworks,
And what we got was similar to what we got with the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight, which was 8 rounds of what is this, of nothing. Although I will say, Freightway Stream, much better than Netflix's.
And no butts exposed on this one either.
Right. But yeah, we were expecting this sparring, and we got none of that. First of all, a lot of respect to John Larkin for taking on the task of trying to defend the driver shortage, which he didn't really do. But yeah, what ended up happening is that we got basically a 30-minute conversation about driver turnover and driver retention and what is causing that, which is something what everyone knows, which is poor driver pay and then poor driver working conditions. That's it. And so for 30 minutes, I know, right? And so for about 30 minutes, we got John Larkin and Louis Pugh just going back and forth, pretty much agreeing with each other, saying, "Yeah, you bring up a good point, and let me expand on that. With this is what's wrong with the driver pay structure." Low pay, no wellness programs, poor quality of truck stop food. These are all things that Larkin said, And so, yeah, we didn't get much of a debate. The one thing that Larkin did say in terms of the actual driver shortage is that there is no driver shortage right now, which I think we all agree with that. But he says, but there could be a driver shortage in the next year or two when the economy improves and freight demand increases and then we don't have enough drivers. But my counter argument to that is that's what we saw right after the pandemic. We saw that surge in freight, and it's like, who's going to haul all this freight? Well, what happens is that because there weren't a lot of truckers at the time, rates went up, and then the truckers come. So pay goes up, the truckers came,
Yeah.
And so, So, yeah, there was like a very short period of not enough truckers, and then, you just raise the rates. They're all going to come. Problem solved. That's just how the market in every industry works.
So that whole simple supply and demand kind of thing.
This is economic stuff you learn at high school. This isn't graduate-level economics.
No.
This is high school-level stuff. And so... Yeah, so because of that, we didn't get much of a debate. We just got, how do we solve the turnover problem? And that is, increasing pay and work conditions,
Real quick, the debate that you were, and I think we all were hoping to maybe see here, would have or should have included the American Trucking Associations, which is really the main driver of this whole narrative.
The only driver.
The only driver. Thank you for that correction there. They did not show up, and not even that. Not only that, they didn't reply to, I guess, multiple invitations to take part as well, right?
So Freightways
speaks volumes.
Yeah, Freightways, who hosted this, they offered ATA $50,000
to donate to charity, right?
To donate to charity of their choice. They offered that, and ATA it was just the silence. They didn't even acknowledge that, and that's not even the first time that they've been offered that. So just a couple of weeks ago, that same offer is on the table, $50,000 for a different debate, same debate, driver shortage, in a different form. Didn't acknowledge that. In April, they were offered $25,000 for a driver shortage debate. Again, nothing. So it's just like the data that they have that supposedly, supports their driver shortage narrative,
which we've never seen.
You can't.
Well,
you can't
and they aren't
see it.
even giving numbers now.
Yeah,
they're just,
No.
used to they at least would attach a number to it, and now they're not even doing that. They're like, yeah,
Right.
that ship's sailed.
Yeah.
So I would say we didn't get anything. Again, respect to John Larkin, who is he's a smart guy, Harvard educated.
Yeah.
He's on the board of CRST. He's on the board of Freightways, and I think that's kind of what happened. Freightways like, we need somebody to debate this. It's like, we have a board of directors. Can you do this, please?
He's like, okay, sure.
fine, yeah. So, but yeah.
But I mean, he was honest. I mean, at the end of the day, he was not going to sell. He was not going to sell us a lie.
He didn't go up there in bad faith.
Exactly. So, kudos to him on that one.
For sure. I want to get to one more topic here. We don't have a lot of time, but New York City congestion pricing, it is back, but at a discounted rate. That is not a commercial read there. But really the race, it's a race against the clock here before President-elect Trump takes office on January 20th.
Yep.
And they're putting it back in place.
Yeah, we all saw this happening. So when the governor paused this back in June, it was under the guise of, save you money, but it was just a political ploy ahead of the election. That's all it was. And so the election's over, so now it's coming back. So what's going to happen is it will start on January 5th is the plan here. And so the original toll for truck drivers was $36 with an Easy Pass. That's going to go down by 40% to $21.60. And that's across the board for everybody. So 40% reduction across the board. Starts in January. Now, the thing is, the plan is that 40% reduction will be good through 2027, and then through 2028 through 2030, it's going to be a 20% discount, and then after 2030, we go back. So gradually get back to that $36. The whole point here is they're scrambling to get this done because Donald Trump did say back in May that his plan, his first week in office, is to end congestion pricing. He said that.
Right.
So now they don't really have much time to do that, and so here we are.
And it makes it more difficult if it's in place before he takes office, as opposed to trying to put it in place after he takes office, which again is the reason that this is kind of being rushed now to the finish line. Central Business District, again, it looks like it's going to take effect January 5th. We do have lawsuits out there that are pending.
Yes.
Who knows where those will go?
Well, they could always go for an emergency injunction given this short timeline, and that's the only thing that would stall it long enough to get President-elect Trump sworn into office.
And speaking of, on December 20th, the judge will be hearing about that injunction, so we'll know in about a month whether or not that happens. Yeah.
We shall see. Never a dull moment. Lots of stuff going on. We got the holidays coming up, but we'll keep on top of it. Jamie, Tyson, we appreciate your time as always.
Hey.
Pleasure being here.
And that was Jamie Jones and Tyson Fisher of Landline Magazine. You can check out their outstanding work each and every day on our website, landline.media, and in every issue of the magazine itself. We'll step out here for a quick break, but don't go far. We're back with more Landline Now right after this.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
At Truck Stop, we've built a better load board for carriers like you. Sign up today and access over 600,000 loads on the most trusted online load board. Learn why the best in the business rely on Truck Stop to make more money and start driving your profit today.
Every year, law enforcement agencies across the country conduct enforcement blitzes of various kinds, and truckers frequently find themselves a target. But in some cases, those agencies also take a look at passenger vehicles and what they're doing on the road, including how their actions affect trucks. You're listening to Landline Now, and I'm your host, Mark Reddick. Welcome back to the program. Recently, the Kentucky State Police's Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Division conducted one of those types of safety blitzes as part of the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's Operation Safe Drive, an ongoing multi-state effort that's focused on reducing the number of crashes and bad behavior on the road. Sergeant Jason Morris, a spokesperson for the Kentucky State Police, is one of the officers involved in the effort. I spoke with him about the effort in Kentucky and what they hope to accomplish, including modifying the behavior of four-wheelers. Well, this was an enforcement blitz that was conducted in conjunction with FMCSA's Operation Safe Drive. And I'm wondering if we can kind of start off. There's a lot of people that maybe aren't familiar with Operation Safe Drive. Can you describe what that is?
Yes. The Safe Drive, which is an operation in conjunction with Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, which the drive stands for Distracted, Reckless, Impaired Visibility Enforcement. Now, this campaign ran from Monday, the 18th of November through Wednesday, the 20th. And the initiative itself focuses on dangerous interstate driving behaviors, such as aggressive driving, speeding, tailgating, failing to wear a seatbelt, and driving under the influence. During this time, the Kentucky State Police, our Commercial Enforcement Division, we'll have our scale installations open during this time, and we're going to be ensuring that commercial drivers follow safety regulations, including those hours of service regulations, commercial license regulations, medical certification, and credentials for those commercial motor vehicles.
Okay. Now, I know some of the FMCSA's efforts focus on only trucks. Some of them actually focus on all vehicles, trucks and passenger vehicles. What is the case with this particular effort?
So this initiative does take into account all motor vehicles on the roadway. It does have an emphasis on, again, those commercial vehicles, but a lot of times these commercial vehicles, while operating, encounter a lot of passenger vehicles or smaller vehicles. And so we are also looking for any individual that is traveling in a dangerous or unsafe manner.
Okay. A lot of these enforcement efforts, especially the ones that look at trucks, whether including other vehicles or not, but they obviously include things like level 1 inspections, but they also sometimes have a focus, a specific problem, violation, or something like that they're looking for, especially in that particular effort. Was there a focus here?
So with this one here, again, this does focus primarily on roadway driving habits. And some of those that we are looking for in this would be those driving under the influence, reckless driving, inattentive or careless driving, any speeding violations, following too close, improper lane changes, those distracted drivings where the use of a cell phone or other distractors are in place, failing to use a seatbelt. And then we do have some that are non-moving and do fall more into the regulatory, such as those hours of service, as well as size and weight enforcement as well.
Okay. Now, I noticed that the Kentucky State Police sent out a release, and they talked about educating motorists sharing the road safely with commercial trucks as part of this. What sort of advice did you offer to passenger vehicles to help them share the road safely with trucks?
Well, as always, we are committed to preventing dangerous driver behaviors and educating motorists on sharing those roads safely with commercial trucks. While these motorists are on the road, we encourage to stay out of those blind spots. These larger vehicles, they have an enlarged blind spot on all four sides. Also, when you're passing these commercial trucks, pass safely. Before passing, make sure that you can see the driver in their driver's side mirror. Utilize your turn signal before you ever pass the driver and re-merge or re-enter the lane that you were in. Always look in the mirror. Make sure that you can see the tires of the vehicle that you passed on the roadway. Do not cut off these large vehicles. It takes these large trucks traveling at highway speeds the length of 2 football fields to stop. And avoid tailgating. Following too close puts you in the truck's blind spots, which can be very dangerous.
I know that a lot of truckers have told me that cars cutting them off is a particularly big problem for them. Have you heard that from truckers?
That has been an issue that has been ongoing for years. Again, motorists, when you're around these large vehicles, it does take them longer to get stopped. It takes them longer to react with the systems involved in the brakes. It's not instantaneous. So when a motorist cuts in front of these trucks, you're really putting your life as well as other motorists' lives in danger because, again, these trucks are unable to make those abrupt changes like we are in our lighter passenger vehicles. With those larger vehicles, it just makes it more of a dangerous act. So always give them as much room as you possibly can.
Okay. The Kentucky State Police's release on this enforcement blitz mentioned that one of the things it's designed to do is to make things safer during the holidays. We are just a little bit early for the holidays at this point. Why was it conducted so far in front of the holidays?
A lot of people today are moving through these states, especially prior to holidays. Some people are getting there early. But again, we want to get out ahead of things. We don't want to be in a reaction. We want to be more of a proactive stance on this. And again, we want to ensure that with this initiative, we are making it safer for everyone who travels through our state because the holiday season is upcoming, and we do want to prevent these dangerous acts from occurring on our roadways.
Okay. Having taken part in a lot of these, is it your general sense that you do see a drop in the number of accidents during or after these events?
Sometimes we will see a drop in these, yes. Unfortunately, at times with a lot of vehicles on the highways, we do start to see an uptick in these crashes during the holidays with everyone traveling. A lot of folks are out and they don't give ample time. And so that now comes into a factor.
Okay. Now, in looking at the results yourself, and I know you mentioned before we started talking that basically you don't quite have the numbers yet. It's too soon after it to have compiled all that information. But when you look at the figures that come in, what's the metric you use to show that in your mind that this was a successful event?
A successful event to me is when I look at the crash data. Of course, during this time, we do have sections for crashes during the detail, and now that's just standard vehicle crashes or crashes with injuries and even including fatalities. So if we see no crashes during that, then that shows to me that we, with our presence on the road, with the educational portion, with OOIDA doing a great job, with you doing a great job on the radio, letting folks know that this is out there, that to me shows signs that motorists are paying attention and they're really doing that task at hand while behind that wheel, which is driving.
Okay. Now, I know that this is over, but I also know that every year that the Kentucky State Police take part, as most other state agencies that are similar do, in other enforcement blitzes across the calendar. What are some of the other ones that you all take part in, especially ones involving large commercial vehicles?
Of course, we're always doing as many of the details as we can throughout the year, but we have other safe drives across the state as well. We do those several times throughout the year. We have a click it or ticket campaigns. Of course, we always have a lot of times speed enforcement details, and those are wrapped around those holiday times because, again, traffic does become larger. You have a lot more volume on the roadway, and so during those times, we try to up the enforcement during that time. We also have drive sober campaigns throughout these holidays where we are looking for those impaired drivers that are operating on the roadways.
Okay. And of course, I would assume that you take part in some of the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance's annual blitzes, the Road Check, the Brake Safety Week, and so on.
Oh, yes. We always partake in any of the CVSA details. Anytime that you have one that is the brake check, the pop-up detail blitzes that you see, we are always taking part in those as well.
Okay. That's all I have. Sergeant, is there anything else that you want to add or any message that you want to get out to the truck drivers out there?
I tell you what, I always like ending just with our mission statement, kind of with what we do. The Kentucky State Police's mission is to promote public safety through service integrity and professionalism. The agency uses partnerships to prevent, reduce, and deter crime. And we promote highway safety through education and enforcement, safeguard property, and protect individual rights.
Okay. Well, Sergeant, thank you very much for your time. I certainly appreciate it.
Hey, Mark, thank you so much. I'm sorry we played so much phone tag.
That was Sergeant Jason Morris, a spokesperson for the Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Division of the Kentucky State Police, talking about his state's recent participation in the FMCSA's Operation Safe Drive. As we mentioned earlier, there are several multi-state enforcement blitzes every year coordinated by CVSA, the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance. Among those is the annual Operation Safe Driver, a different event from Operation Safe Drive. That's a week-long event in which enforcement personnel take a look at behaviors on the part of both commercial and passenger vehicles to help educate drivers about unsafe behaviors on the road. The Alliance also conducts an annual human trafficking awareness initiative, during which enforcement officers, working with Truckers Against Trafficking, distribute materials designed to raise awareness of the problem with an overall goal of reducing the frequency of trafficking. The next Human Trafficking Awareness Initiative will take place from January 13th through the 17th in the U.S., from February 17th through the 21st for Canada, and from March 17th through the 21st in Mexico. Running from August 24th through the 30th, 2025, will be the group's annual Brake Safety Week. The effort's goal is pretty obvious from the name. Each year, the week has a particular focus, though, regarding brake safety. In 2024, that focus was brake linings and pads. Notably, roughly 87% of the trucks inspected, nearly 9 out of 10, had no out-of-service violations. And of course, the big enforcement blitz on the calendar is the annual Road Check. The 3-day event involves thousands of inspectors, with most conducting Level 1 inspections of tens of thousands of tractor-trailers and other commercial motor vehicles. Last year's CVSA says 77% of the vehicles inspected had no out-of-service violations, and 95% of drivers were clear of out-of-service violations as well. The next International Road Check is scheduled for May 13th through the 15th, 2025. And when that kind of enforcement effort takes place, we will inform you in advance and bring you the results afterward, right here on our program and at the website landline.media. We'll be back in just a moment with more news and information. Please stay with us for a short break. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Capital Reman, the leader in remanufactured diesel engines and components, has partnered with OOIDA to offer exclusive member benefits. Visit capitalreman.com today to support America's transportation industry and take advantage of your benefits.
Penske owns and operates some of the best-maintained vehicles on the planet. Our used trucks come with a 5-year maintenance report and pre-sale inspection. So if you're in the market for a top-quality pre-owned truck, look no further. Search our inventory today at PenskeUsedTrucks.com.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com, because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline now, welcome back. Marty Ellis, the man who drives OOIDA's tour truck, otherwise known as the Spirit of the American Trucker, has been off the road for a bit. He was at OOIDA headquarters this week getting some work done on the Spirit before he heads off to his next stop, and he stopped by the studio for a chat. But even though Marty's off the road for now, he's still thinking about all his fellow truckers out there, keeping America moving, and he's especially thinking about them as we approach the holiday season, starting with Thanksgiving next week.
Carolina west to Denver, up to Bangor, west to Austin, coast to coast, sea to sea, sail on, sail on.
Marty, good to see you. In person, no less.
Absolutely. Good to see you too, Scott.
You have been off the road for a little bit, and there's a reason for that. Not a fun reason, unfortunately, but there is a reason.
Well, part of it was fun. Part of it was at the board meeting, where I was able to really touch base with some of the board members I only get to see twice a year, so that's always a fun time. And some of the time, in the evenings where you can have that away from all the designated stuff you're supposed to be talking about, you can kind of get to know the board members and see where they're coming at. So I enjoy that part of it. So that's all good.
That's the fun part. The unfun part.
Yeah, that's where it's, that old saying, that's trucking. Well, we are not immune from that. And where I thought I was being ahead of the game and asking our guys to do some preventive maintenance, it turns out, one of the things that I wanted to have the guys look at was broken. And I'm glad that it was caught then, because some of the time you don't pay attention to the passive stuff. Mm-hmm. Especially with this type of trailer, it's a little bit different than most trailers out there. So it has a generator, which also has the engine in front, plus the generator itself that generates the electricity. And so that just adds another, I would say, challenge to the mix.
That's the word, yeah.
But, Jack and his crew were able to see, okay, this needs to be fixed. We finally figured out how we were going to attack that. And then while he was attacking that, he looks over and says,
It's never a good sign when someone's looking at your stuff.
Right. Or when you get that text saying, hey, I need you to come back out to the trailer. It's like,
oh, no. That's never good news.
So it was a problem with the generator. Hopefully it won't be a big problem.
Yeah.
But it was probably just smarter for us to say, hey, why don't we go ahead and bring it back to the place that built it? They have the knowledge, they have the equipment, let them deal with it, and hopefully we'll be back up and running before we know it. But I'm also going to take some more time off to go spend some time with the family there for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, which is a great segue into what we're talking about today, because you're always talking to people, and you're always thinking about, obviously, your fellow truck drivers out there and what they go through. We know the sacrifices that truck drivers make on an everyday basis to literally keep this country moving. Those sacrifices this time of year, we're getting into the holidays, those sacrifices really take on a different tone for a lot of folks out there. And I don't think a lot of people realize the sacrifices that are made, right?
Yeah, I really don't think that. I think probably this time of year is probably the time that it probably gets focused on more than throughout the year. But, there's so many things that truck drivers deal with that most people in other jobs don't. Now, there's some other jobs that keep people away from their families and that, so I'm not downgrading that, I'm just, looking at what the truck drivers go through on even a day-to-day basis. But this time of year, it's kind of multiplied because most of us do want to spend time with our family. I know when I was regular trucking, I would, after the kids got old enough, I would, not take Christmas off so somebody that had a younger family could have that time off and we'd still be able to move freight. But some of the time that's not a possibility, or some of the time you just want to be home.
Yeah.
And the companies that are smart, number one, they get to know their drivers enough to find out what's important to them. Is it being home for just the major holidays? Is it, oh, hey, we need to get this driver home more often, during football season or baseball season or whatever that their kids are doing that sport.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be sports, so I understand
Sure,
that.
yeah, any kind of
event.
extracurricular, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's one thing that I think that too many companies don't really focus on, is to get to know what their drivers want and need, because you can take away a lot of headaches from a driver if they're getting home as often as they need to be for their family.
Yeah.
It's not just a want. Some of the time that's a really need.
For sure. Yeah.
And we were just having this discussion on, oh, hey, when's your anniversary? We probably ought to get you home for your anniversary.
Yeah.
You know what? A lot of people don't think about that. If they're working a 9 to 5, they're just going to do their anniversary on the weekend. Well, a lot of us aren't home on the weekends.
Right, yeah.
And some of the people don't put into consideration when they are out the stress that puts on. I always jokingly say, the spouses have to be really strong so they can handle things when you're gone. And I always tell people that my wife's smart enough to pretend like I'm in charge when I get home.
Yeah.
But there's so many things we miss out on.
Yeah.
Whether it's putting a new hot water heater in instead of paying somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
Or just the fun things. But it's this time of year, what's the worst thing out there? Weather.
Yeah.
I mean, and you have a plan. Okay, you're going to get from point A to point B, plenty of time, unless weather comes into play.
Yeah.
And so many dispatchers fail to take the time and say, okay, the average whatever, let's say 60 miles per hour mileage for the day might work well during good weather times.
Sure.
But during bad weather times, they need to basically look at that and give X amount of extra time, because things will slow down. This morning, through the rain.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a truck in the median all smashed up, and I'm sure they just hydroplaned, hit some water at the wrong time. Well, so that extra time, you're going to slow down. You can't see as well. You better slow down because things can happen. And when that happens, well, then your schedule starts going down.
Right.
And if the dispatchers don't work with you to work that out, not only are their schedule is going to be just as bad as yours is, and I think we need to work better at trying to help out each other that way.
Right. And that's what I was going to ask you. There's so many challenges, and we all know what they are, and there's lots of problems, that we all deal with on an everyday basis. Looking at solutions for this kind of thing, and I think it probably has gotten worse, I guess, for lack of a better term, over the years. But in terms of solutions, it really is a matter of just looking out for one another. And I know that the trucking community is great at doing that, and maybe it's just a thing that you got to think about more often.
Right, and I think you're right. I think that if we all just take a little bit of time on both sides of it, okay? Mm-hmm. Let's say you're the dispatcher. I need to find out, how I can be of service to you, as well as you be of service to me, to help us work together. We still all have customers. There is a time frame. If we don't talk, and I think communication is probably the biggest key of all of it. If we don't each communicate what our wants and needs are, I think that we're failing each other.
Yeah, and just take a moment and step back. The world is so fast-paced now, and it's like we're always going. We're not taking enough time to just sit and just communicate, talk, listen as well, and I wish there were more of that. I wish there was more time with you as well, Marty, today, but we're out of it. But before we go, any last thoughts?
Hey, guys and gals, some of the time I forget that.
Yeah.
Guys and gals, be kind to one another and give that guy next to you a break.
Brothers of the highway, children of the wind.
Our thanks to Marty Ellis, the man who drives the OOIDA tour truck, the spirit of the American trucker. You can catch up with all his upcoming stops right here on the show on our website, landlinenow.com. and over on the OOIDA website as well, ooida.com. That's our show for today. We thank you for listening. We've got another episode of Landline Now right around the corner, and we hope to see you then. Until then, take care and drive safe.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
chrome.
And I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us! Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit ooida.com.